at the bottom of the Mishnah. Halacha 24. If somebody buries his dead 3 days before Yom Tov, Batlu Mimenu Gzeira Shiva. Then when Yom Tov comes around, Shiva ends. Now we actually don't postulate this Mishnah. However, the Yerushalmi does, which is that in order to have Shiva end before Yom Tov, you actually have at least that according to the Mishnah and according to the Yerushalmi, you have to have at least 3 days of Shiva pass. If you only have 1 hour of Shiva before Yom Tov doesn't cancel Shiva.
Probably allows the cancellation.
Probably allows it, right?
But we actually do though.
Yeah, we cancel even if you just sat on the ground briefly before Yom Tov begins. Already you have to cancel Shiva.
So why do we do that?
It's 3 days.
We're going to talk about it. We will get there.
Okay.
Okay. Shmonas Yom Mikol Regel. If you you said Shiva and began Shloshim before Yom Tov begins, brought them in Xer Shloshim, and then Shloshim, the 30-day period, is cancelled by Yom Tov. They show because it is Shabbos oil of Einam Avsekes. Shabbos counts. It becomes part of the. It becomes the part of Shiva, right? Thank you. But it doesn't interrupt it. Regalim, it should be Mafsikim Vein and Olim. There's Golim switch around. Regalim stop the Shiva or the Shloshim, but they don't count as part of Shiva and Shloshim. Okay, so that and of course the ramification of that is let's say somebody dies ad Yontif, so Shiva only begins after Yontif ends. Okay, Shiva only begins after Yontif. Okay, it says more Gezerah Shiva. What is forbidden during Shiva? Sandal, wearing sandals, and this should be actually V'Sefer, and Sefer is actually Rashi Tevos. That means that it's abbreviations. It's Sicha, anointing, Puria, sitting on a raised bed, literally, or raised chairs, and Rechitza, and watching oneself. So all those are forbidden during Shiva. Sandals, and anointing oneself with oil, and sitting on a high chair, and also, as I said, washing oneself. Gezerah Shloshim, the decree of 30 days is equally as you're forbidden to mend the clothes that you ripped because of the mitzvah of kriya during those 30 days. The gilut when it's forbidden to launder one's clothes, to clean one's clothes, v'ti glachas, and to shave. Eza gilut, what is considered to be the shaving, the ironing or laundering, which is prohibited. Kleit samer meguatzim. It's when you iron linen clothing, and it's chadoshim. It literally that means new, but here it means not that it's actually new, but it's like new. Kleit pishta meguatzim, and also linen, not just wool, but also linen, which is cleaned and whitened. Right, which doesn't get as white, so it doesn't look completely new, but looks essentially very white. Rabbi Chelbo and Rabbi Chuna b'Shem Rav said, Chal Yom Shmini Lios shows b'Shabbos. Let's say the 8th day comes out on Shabbos. Migalech Erev Shabbos. Then you can already shave before Shabbos begins. So it says more, Hey Chefsher. How is it possible the 8th day comes out on Shabbos? If the 8th day comes out on Shabbos, so when was the first day of Avelus? Shabbos. But how do you bury somebody on Shabbos that Avelus starts on Shabbos, right? So how is it possible to speak about the 8th day coming out on Shabbos? So that's one of the answers. So there are 3 answers given. The part one answer is Shegeraso Chaya, an animal dragged them away. They never actually found the body. An animal dragged away, and they gave up looking for him on Shabbos. The Tani came, we learned that in the Brisa, somebody was dragged away by an animal. When do you start counting the shiur of him? Once they gave up looking for him, right? If you found them scattered into fragments, limb parts, you start sitting shiva or keeping avelos when you find the head and majority of his torso. If you find the spine and the skull, that's already considered to be a majority vis-a-vis our halacha, that you can start avelos from then. So in any event, that's one answer, that they gave up looking for him on Shabbos. Vilna gave a different answer. The part there, say to about Shanistam Agol Erev Shabbos in Chashecha. That the tombstone, like Dr. Spadel said, was sealed Erev Shabbos momentarily just before nightfall. Says Mareh Shar. How a Jew's taking the chance and sealing it momentarily just before nightfall. So it says Mar Rabbi Yachor Potter explained Shesas Mo'akum, where the goy closed it up. East the boy Lema the Basam said Shabbos lo Shmuel Kroiva b'Shabbos, that got news, literally fresh news, near news is fresh news, that he had a relative who died within the past 30 days on Shabbos. So then his Shiva begins, technically speaking, really on Shabbos, even though he can't begin the observance thereof till after nightfall. Rabbi Yami Avalei Uvta. Rabbi Yami had a Avelus v'Gileach, and he shaved Yom, and it's a typo, it should be Yom Shloshim. He shaved on the 30th day. You can take out the Reish. This is also can take it out. And Avalei Uvda v'Gileach Yom Avrav. Another time he had a Ma'isa that he was an Avelus, and he didn't shave until the 31st day, after a complete 30 days were over. Not on the morning of the 30th day, but only after the complete days were over. So says the Gemara, how could this be? It's a contradiction. Rabbi Zikr said, "Me must nisin yoli flaw." Rabbi Ami lit out from the Mishnah. The Tzina we learned Mishnazir shtein Nazirios. Some of you who took an oath to keep 2 times being a Nazir. So the first to the haircut he takes after 31 days. And the second one he takes after 61 days altogether. So name it, what do we see here? We see that it can be 30 days also. It says here the first one was 31 days and the second time was 30 days, right? That's one way of learning this. There are a couple of other ways of learning this price, the way this price is brought down as proof, and trying to saying the proof is from the Sefer at the end of the price, which is not quoted here. But in any event, the bottom line here is that it seems that we see here that there seems to be a contradiction in the Zerus. You get to do 30 days.
The Zerus back-to-back Zerus is in the Master Yom.
That's the question. If you say you can do it on 30 days and you say Miktas Yom Kulo, then I have part of days like the whole day. You can't do it on that day, so obviously you don't say Miktas Yom Kulo. If you don't say Miktas Yom Kulo, there are a little bit of days like the day when you have to shave only.
In the middle of the day? Yeah. Begin.
Strike 3. Next day.
Oh, if you don't say.
Right, if you don't say Miktas Yom Kulo. I'm sorry. You don't say Miktas Yom Kulo, you only get to shave the next day. That would be the 31st day.
Right.
You just say Miktas Yom Kulo, then you get to shave that day.
So
here it seems.
The price seems to be a lot.
So here it seems the rice that you get to shave once on the 31st day, once on the 30th day, because it's 61 days altogether, right?
So you shave on the 30th day at the end of the first Zerus, and then.
No, it says you shave on the 31st day at the end of the first Zerus. That's what it says there. You shave on the 31st day. That's when you shave on the 31st.
No, that was for the Avelos. For the Zerus, the price was.
It says Mishnazir Shtein Azirios Migalech Yerushalmi Yom Shloshim V'Echad. So the second one is on the 61st day, which means only 30 days. So we see here that the two separate levels in Rabbi Yossi Tamal Shavar, meaning b'diavad. If you're ready, if you're stuck, then 30 days suffices. Preferably it should be a full 30 days, meaning into the 31st day. Rabbi Yirmiyah said to Rabbi Yitzchak Katushaya, some say Rabbi Chia by Yibray, Rabbi Yitzchak Katushaya said to Rabbi Yitzchak's son, L'galech yom lamed mimas nisan. He told him you can shave on the 30th day from a Mishnah. What does it say? Shmonas yom mikol regel. It says, if the person died 8 days before Yom Tif, so then Bitlu Menu Gzera Shloshim, he doesn't have to keep Shloshim anymore because he kept 1 day Shloshim. And V'hu Shmini Hu Shloshim. And therefore his 8th day is like his 30th day. He could shave on that day. So we see allowed to shave on the 30th day, right? Isn't that quite clear? Correct? Because it says that you're allowed to shave on the 8th day, which is your 30th day.
Yeah, but here it's already Yom Tif.
On Rabbi Yosef, he said, Shani tamam mishim nekovad aregeli tiyu. Then it made it for the honor of Yontif. And a chanami. Could be that normally you have to wait till the 31st day. For the honor of Yontif, they allowed you to shave on the 30th day. And Taylor Choshuken, you should know this is true. Should Dom Rabbi Chelba, Rav Chevasa, Rav Chuna, B'Shem, Rav said, Chayom Shmini, Sheloli, Yos B'Shabbos. There was 8 day comes on Shabbos, as we saw on top. So Megalech Erev Shabbos. He shaves Erev Shabbos. What? What do you think they were Lubavitchers? Chassidim.
Shave looks like just all.
Really, excuse me, it could really only be referred to the hairs of the head. You know, in modern day parlance, Legalech means to shave, but it could be in the old days it refers to head hair, not facial hair.
Did they do a year prior? I mean, I've seen there's a drawing that suggested that they are going
You're showing your age. Kojak, you mean? Yes. So, what do you mean?
No, I've seen pictures that suggest that men shave their head.
No, I don't know if they do. The Chassidim shave their heads. I don't know if they actually shave their head. I doubt
They
it.
just leave their.
Maybe just means trimming the beard with scissors.
We don't know. We're not sure what Legalech means. Whether it means just the hair of the head or also means the beard or just the beard. It really never specifies. The more never comes down to brass tacks on that. Okay? So, good old Kojak. So many years. So, he has been around for a long time. But when I was in high school, he was...
High school.
Yeah.
No,
he died I think over a decade ago.
What? No, it's available.
I think
You're right, 5, 6, 7 years. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Could have been
Okay. So it says Gemara. I used to use when I was in high school. I used to like all those programs.
You shouldn't have been all
Columbo, Kojak, McCloud. I forget. There must have been one of our others. I used to actually like those. No, I don't. But all right, this could roll. Anyways, God was as far as Moed Kattan. So what? I'm not familiar with. So anyway, so it says more further. So Rabbi Yirmiyah told him to shave on the 30th day, and then we said no, maybe to cover the regal, and then he says Teidel Choshikesh. No, the cover the regal is different. Adi Amar Rabbi Chelba Rav Chun B'Shem Rav Chali Yom Shmini Shel Lios B'Shabbos. If your 8th day comes out on Shabbos, Megalech Erev Shabbos, so you have to shave Erev Shabbos. Right? Now, this is Erev Shabbos. Only if your 8th day comes out on Shabbos, meaning that it's a guy who 8th day comes on Shabbos, meaning not if your 30th day comes out on Shabbos. Only if your 8th day comes out on Shabbos. What do you mean? Why 8th? Why did you pick 8th? Say 30th. What's the day you shave normally? The 30th day. When you shave on the 8th day, only if the next day is Yom Tov, right? So it says, that's what his point is. If you're going to say, even if there is no Yom Tov coming up, they permitted it. So then, why did you pick the obscure case where the 8th day comes out on Shabbos, which is Erev Yom Tov? Pick a case where a regular Shloshim comes out on that Shabbos. Megalech Erev Shabbos, and you shave Erev Shabbos. So why do we not allow it? Why only if the 8th day comes on Shabbos, not the 30th day comes out on Shabbos? It must be only allow making a day early and shaving on the 7th day when the next day is going to be Yom Tov. And therefore, by extrapolation, we say that the only time we would allow you to shave on the 30th day, suppose the 31st day is also when the next day is Erev Yom Tov. The next day is Yom Tov. So say Lamaisa, I think we paskin anyway that you can do it. But in any event, it says Vominado. It says furthermore here, the Tani says, "I'll call Mason Mushole Achar Shiva." On all dead relatives, you can do large seams. Seams is the wrong word. Large stitches. large stitches in the area you rent on your garment on the 30th day. Now, everybody, you have to realize in the old days, people didn't have so many garments. Nowadays, they're Korea. What do you do with the shirt? You throw it out, right?
Do you really? You were an old.
Why? You don't have to throw it out.
I had mine sewn up with very large.
Right, that's what we're talking about here.
Well, they were welt-like.
I thought you were going to say you had it bronzed.
No, they were welted. I had the seamstress sew it up so it's a very noticeable stitch.
Right, that's what we're talking about here.
So that it would remind you.
Yeah, no, you're not allowed to. On father, you're talking about your father, right? Father, you're not allowed to have it sewn up. Another relative, you're allowed to have it sewn up. No, I mean sewn up regularly. In other words, you had it sewn up properly for a father.
Right? I had it sewn up improperly.
Right, that's what I meant. I meant properly for a father, i.e. improperly. As opposed to other relatives, you could sew it up properly, normally. That's what I meant.
It's noticeable that it's not a
Well,
normal.
yeah, look, I had it welted out. It looks like, a giant
Cross stitches.
So that's what we're saying.
star is what it looks like.
So after 7 days, Vomir says the Tani says I'll call a mason mushol lachar shiva, and all other people who die other than your father, mother, you can make large stitches after shiva, and make small stitches, meaning normal stitches, after achar shloshim. So it says the Gemara, v'yishlo yom shiva v'yachi yom shloshim. Why it say achar after shiva and achar after shloshim? So it'd be an shiva and an shloshim. So it must be that shloshim is only over when? The day after shloshim.
Can you
Okay.
use the same garment for each death in the family?
I think so. As long as there's room left to tear, obviously. But yeah, I think so. Okay? So says the Gemara, Tani, we learned. Oh, I skipped. So Amrei Chagai, Dihava Shmaitza, okay? Rabbi Chagai said, since we heard that one says this way and one says the other way, Rabbi Yehuda B'Tani Zudi V'Rei Abba Shol, let us learn. The Brayzut says this is the words of Abba Shol, meaning Abba Shol holds that part of the 7 days like the 7th day, and part of the 30th day is like the part of the day. And Rabbi Yehuda B'Shem Shmuel, Rabbi Avo B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan said, Halacha K'Abba Shol, we pass on Abba Shol, that Miktas Yom Kekula, if you go into the day, it's as if the whole day is passed, and that's where Shiva, of course, ends in the morning of the 7th day, as opposed to going throughout the 7th day. Rabbi V'Tani came another Bryce law could vary, looks like it said as well. Rabbi B'Shem Rav said, Divrei Abba Shol, Koin Abba Shol, Bein Yomim Bein Gzeros Batlu. The days are canceled and the decrees are canceled. Avadiyah Chachamim Koin Chachamim Yomim Batlu. The days are canceled. However, Gzeros Lo Batlu. The decree is not canceled. Now, what does it mean? We're getting back to Yom Tov. And asking, what does Yom Tov do? Does Yom Tov stop both the days and the decrees? Yom Tov just stop the days and not the decrees. What's the difference? The bottom line is Yom Tov stops, right, Sukkot, or whatever, Pesach stops, right? Stops Shiva, so what's the difference? So it says Shloshim, right? So what's the difference? Very interesting difference here. Says the Gemara, Ma B'neu, Rav Chuna Amar Erva Regel B'neu. It's a very interesting difference. What happens Erev Yom Tov is the difference. Meaning, according to Rabbanan, Yilech Erev HaRegel, Yilech Achar Regel. Rabbanan hold it's not carte blanche to shave once Erev Yom Tov comes. It's only heter for Yom Tov. That means Yomi Bitlu, Gzeros Lo Bitlu, right? There's a day which is permitted, but you're still under the theoretical sway of Shloshim. So therefore, if you didn't shave on Erev Yom Tov, you may not shave. This is not carte blanche that once the Yom Tov comes along, even on day 8, so then the next 22 days you can shave. No, if you shave that day, then you get to shave later on. If you didn't shave that day, so we say the gzeira is still there. We gave you special dispensation for Yontif. But since you didn't utilize it, you can't utilize it later on. It's either then or never. That's all there is. What? It depends if you had time before Yontif or not. If you had time, you can't do it all the way. So that's what the Gemara says. In Gilech, according to Rabbanan, in Gilech, Erev HaRegel, if you took the shave, Erev Yontif, Gilech, Acharel, then you take the shave after Yontif. In Lo Gilech, Erev HaRegel, but you didn't take the shave Erev Yontif, I Gilech, Acharel, can't shave after Yontif. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, I think it's Rabbi Yochanan, but maybe it's somebody else. Ava Bishlo Gilech, Erev HaRegel, Gilech, Acharel. Even if you didn't shave before Yontif, you're allowed to shave after Yontif. In other words, it's dispensation. Once they get the permissibility to shave, it's not just on that day, but rather they give the dispensation to shave, and if you miss that day, you can do it another day as well. Okay? Rabbi Shimon Bar Ba legalech achar regel. Rabbi Lezer once told Shimon Bar he can take a haircut after Yontif when he was in Avelus. We do not know ikadad Abashol. The old like Abashol that even if you didn't take the shave erev Yontif, you continue to take the shave later on. Because of the Rabbanim, or it's to pass like Rabbanim, and although we didn't know it, he had already shaved there Yontif, but that's why he gave him permission to shave afterwards, and that worked Rabbi Yaakov. Rabbi Shimon Bar Ba learns a basket for Rabbi Shimon Bar Ba. Harekel eliminate shloshim. The regel counts for shloshim. The other counts for shloshim. Rabbi Yosef, I think this is where we actually pass it. We have Yontif. Didn't you have that case?
Yeah.
Oh, you were shloshim were over for you by Sukkot, right?
No. Sukkot canceled shloshim.
Sukkot cancels shloshim. Yeah, but the question is, let's say it doesn't cancel. Does it count?
Can you say it's like
let's say
type of...
Oh, that's what you say in the previous one. It's like the shiur and hutra. Yeah, that's for sure you can say it. The question is where let's say a person died on Sukkot, right? So does Sukkot count as part of the shloshim or not? No. So that's what I'm saying. So I'm going to be Ashkelon plus Arelo Eino Elam Midjan Shloshim. Arelo. No, I'm going to say the opposite. It's more saying Arelo Elam Midjan Shloshim. Does count for 30 days.
Even though the Shiva doesn't start until...
Right, the more actually will say later on. Even though Shiva doesn't start until after Yontif, Shloshim starts on Yontif.
Starts retroactively.
Yeah, not retroactively. It starts then. Period.
Yeah.
Okay? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yosef, as you said, Ashkachon Tlasin Koidmin L'Shiva. We find 3 days preceding the 7 days. What does that mean? HaKorban Meishes L'Shiva and the Koidmin Arel. Somebody buried his dead his dead relative 3 days before Yontif, but the minute of Shiva doesn't have to keep Shiva. Again, Yerushalmi Shita said it has to be 3 days before Yontif. We don't pass it that way. That's Yerushalmi Shita. It's only if you kept 3 days. But now you only kept 2 days. Now the Yerushalmi says an amazing thing. Says that which keep 4 days after Yontif, right? Since you only had 3 days before, less than 3 days before Yontif. So that which keep 4 days of Chol Moed. Sorry, not Chol Moed. 4 days of Avelus after Yontif. Romar Ella Shloisha. I'm sorry, I was confused. That which you said you don't have to keep anything after Yontif is when you kept 3 days of Pesach itself, whatever else it's Yontif, you have to keep it. Hoshnaim lo. But if you only kept 2, only kept 2 days before Yontif, then your shiur is not canceled. Hodat Omar. Now here's really the interesting part of Yerushalmi. Hodat Omar Beinon Lebein Atzmo. That which he says you have to keep Avelus after Yontif is only personally for himself. Aval Rabim, but in terms of the masses, the multitudes, they're not Menachem over during those extra days. It's a fascinating concept. You're going to have somebody who's in Avelus for 2 days before Yontif, and that's what he has to keep up, make up 5 days after Yontif. But when he's in Avelus after Yontif, only for, people can't come to actually be Menachem. There's no Tanchumei Avelim, right? There's no, yeah.
What do you call that?
It's an observance.
What type of observance is it if nobody can visit you?
It's your own personal torment.
The whole purpose of Shiva is to relieve that.
That's what you thought.
So does he have to still sit in
what
a
is the
position
purpose
and
of
not...
Shiva?
Introversion.
What? Forget my version. What's the
Introversion. I didn't say my version.
Introversion.
Introversion.
How could purpose of shiva be introversion? What? If obviously there's certain forms of having social.
Not here.
Certain forms of social intercourse that are prohibited, but the presence of other people is designed to console. Now, that's shiva. Now you're saying that here, there's no consolation. It's just isolation.
Right.
And then introspection is an inevitable byproduct of it. So it's sanity. But isolation is its purpose, right?
Yes.
No,
In
why?
this case. So think about that.
We don't pass this way.
Yeah, but he's bound by the Yerushalmi. Okay, so name it.
This bothers me.
Yeah, it's a shocking concept. So, if you didn't learn something new when you came here, would you come? Right?
It's almost as if it's a continuation of the Yom Tov observance.
Right, it really is and in fact, actually, that's a good point you make, because the Gemara will pick up on that momentarily. But Tani came, we also learned in the Brisa, if you bury your dead 3 days into Yom Tov, okay, it's the middle of Yom Tov, you count Shiva after Yom Tov. It should be the first 4, it says here, for Arba. The first 4 days, people come to console you. The 3 last days, they don't come to console you. Why? Because you already had 3 days part of Yom Tov, right? So those 3 days, they didn't really count for Shiva, but they were quasi-Shiva. So you already had 7 days which are susceptible to consolation. The last 3 days, therefore, are not susceptible to consolation.
Except on Yom Tov itself, they're not.
Well, I was going to ask, 1 second. It says, and those last 3 days, other people can do his work for him. Normally they can't. We're going to see that. And his servants and his animals, they do work for him in private. Now, the Beis Yosef actually answers this question is, even though they can't console him, can they come and say,
Can they come and sit?
Can they come and sit? Can they come and talk about the stock market? It seems like a major Jewish.
They just come and sit. They
Right.
ignore.
Right.
Which is what Shiva usually is.
Okay. So, but that's only the Beis Yosef's way of learning it. The Shari Torah says it's not talking about the last 3 days, but rather on Yom Tov. But it seems that way from the word itself. Can they come on Yom Tov?
You can accept visitors, can't you?
Yeah, no, but for this purpose.
Consoling purposes.
This is not consoling, but can they come anyway?
In Shiva, people just sit there and they talk about the ball game.
Right.
There is a point. There are words. Yeah, maybe not a ball game, but
No, they do.
But they are present. They say a few words, carefully chosen, and they speak among themselves. And you sit there while they speak. They may not be speaking to you.
And you're introspecting.
Whatever you're doing is serving a purpose, and you can do that in Yom Tov.
No, so that's what I was asking, according to the Shari Torah Yisrael. Can you do any Yom Tov? So it says Rabbi Yaakov, Rabbi Chaim said, they said, Ein Avel Shabbos, no Avel is Shabbos. So why they say Laris L'Poim, you can go visit him on Shabbos anyway. Lo V'nei HaKavod, it's not because of the honor of the person saying Shiva. Lo V'nei HaKavod, so too you can do the same thing on Yom Tov as well, or on the last 3 days of the Avelis when there aren't officially consolers coming. Period. Now, with the Kavasa, now generally speaking, similarly, Yom Echad Lifnei Regel, if you sat Shiva before 1 day before Yom Tov, brought Mimenu Gzeras Shnayim, they would cancel the halacha of 2 days. Now, what's the halacha of 2 days? Meaning that
Sounds like it's canceling the requirement for 3 days before Yom Tov.
no, it's not canceling. It's canceling the requirement. Not sure the word Shnai fits in here. I thought I understood, but now I'm not so sure. Okay, so the Bnei Moshe wants to say that the Bnei Moshe wants to say if you bury your dead 2 days before Yom Tif, then there's 7 days after Yom Tif, but 2 days of them are not consolation days. But if you bury your dead 1 day before Yom Tif, then all the days after Yom Tif will be consolation days. That's what he's trying to say. But Gezerah Shnayim means that.
Does that assume that consolation days are available during Yom Tif?
No.
But what's the point? I mean, it's very strange.
I mean, it might seem to negate the word, but it's not essential.
But it's a very strange arithmetic, isn't it?
Yes. That's why I'm pausing. But that's what he says. He says that the idea is if 3 days before Yom Tif you had an Avelus, and you have 4 days after Yom Tif, 3 days of which are consolation days, and 3 days which are not consolation days. If you may start 2 days before Yom Tif, you get 7 days after Yom Tif, 5 days of consolation and 2 non-consolation days. If you may start on Erev Yom Tif, then after Yom Tif you had all consolation days. You don't have any days with non-consolation.
Where are we posturing under Bavli? There's no consolation there.
No. Bobby doesn't have his consolation.
Yom Tif negate shiur.
Right. This whole Gemara is not relevant according to Allah because we pass on the Bavli, you have to negate Shiva even if it's 1 day. But Yerushalmi is drawing distinction between how many days before, based on that, how many days of consolation versus non-consolation you have after Yom Tov. Again, there's all the Yerushalmi.
No, there's no concept in Bavli of non-consolation shiur.
Right.
Doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't exist. No.
Are there any Sephardic customs?
Do you feel vindicated by that?
Well,
A Sephardic custom? I think Sephardic is a different custom.
I just can't relate to the notion of non-consolation shiur. It's not shiur.
Okay, you're a Babylonian. Okay, it says more further.
I think I looked at there's some Spanish people in South America that hold like a form of shiur.
Moranos, yeah. Okay. Says Gemara, Avel b'yom rishon, shifting gears a little bit, and Avel, on the first day he's sitting Shiva, Eino nosin tefillin, he doesn't put on tefillin. B'yom Moshe, the second day nosin tefillin, does put on tefillin. In bo poyin chadashos, if fresh people come who have not seen him to console him previously, so then when they come, they can't see him in tefillin, chotzel kol shiva, has to take him off, no matter what day it is. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. The shiur me'er b'yom rishon v'yom hasheni eino nosin tefillin. He says, even on the second day, you don't put on tefillin. B'shlishi nosin tefillah, tefillin. On the third day, he puts on tefillin. In bo panei chadoshos, if the travelers come, eino chotzel, and need not take off the tefillin. V'im b'yom hasheni eino nosin tefillin. If it's the second day, it says here, it doesn't put on tefillin. Sichla meimar, isn't it obvious? Let's see, so here.
I don't quite understand this. According to the Gemara, an Avel doesn't put on tefillin all 7 days of shiur.
No, just the first, second, or third days. First or second days.
That's also a new concept.
No, an Avel doesn't put on shiva. Avel nowadays also doesn't put on tefillin the first day.
Well, that's
Even after the burial is over, he's not mechuyev. No, even after the burial is over.
okay.
Not just Bizanome.
The second day already.
Yes, Glenfield. Because if I say, wait, that's where it's going to say it. So again, Imi Yom Shei and also tefillin, he doesn't put on tefillin on Monday. The second day, tzurcha meim mishimesa mutafarim is not called chum with a dead person in front of you. You're not allowed to actually put on tefillin. And so why does it say elsewhere? Not in the part we quoted that if a dead person in front of you, you're not allowed to put on tefillin. I'm beginning to find it out. So it says one, it says the other. It's just schlepped along. Now, amen. Rabbi Zir Baruch of Hashem Rishmua and Rabbi Zir and Rabbi Hashem Rav said, "I will crave blessing Medicina." They start putting tefillin right in the second day. However, Yeshua taking them off. They don't take them off in front of everybody, right? You don't have to take them off. You can leave them on. Okay, as we said before, you have to take off your tefillin if panim chadashos come, new people. He doesn't know panim chadashos. Even new people come, you still keep on your tefillin. You don't have to take them off just because these people are seeing for the first time. You have veils and sitting with
tefillin on. You have to severely restrict his activity.
What's he going to do anyway? He's sitting shiva. Talk about the awful here. Not about regular life.
I can't think of an example.
What?
I can't think of it. I cannot think of an example of conduct permissible while sitting shiva, which would not be permissible while wearing tefillin, but I'm sure such a thing exists.
You keep thinking. What agenda do you want to prove?
I'm sorry.
What do you want to prove? Or what do you want to ask?
I don't want to prove anything. I'm just the equation of the limitation of conduct that goes with wearing tefillin all day.
It's good for a novel anyway.
I know, it's to be accustomed.
Yeah.
Wear tefillin all day because you were studying all day.
Okay, and therefore?
But you don't study when you sit shiva.
Why? You introspect.
Don't study with a ruler. I mean, it's not a base thing.
Doesn't matter. You can still study.
Everyone is not. Wait a second. Everyone is around you.
Yeah.
You're supposed to sit there with.
No, that's nowadays. In the old days, people weren't always around you. There's a limit to how many times people in your little village of 20 Jews are going to come see you. Okay, everything is mass marketed nowadays. India's going to hit 1 billion people next Tuesday. Everything's mass marketed. Okay? Says more further. Rabbi can't get over the fact that over 40% of the world's population is either Indian or Chinese. It's a remarkable concept. You know? We got to start missionizing. Says more further. So, I love to see that they start putting on the first day. You don't have to take them off even if new people come to the room who had not seen you previously. You don't have to manifest your avails for them by taking her to tefillin. Rabbi Zira in Nasab Yom Moshe Krebelezer, on the second day, put on tefillin like Krebelezer says. Ma'ushi Asa Krebelezer Krebelezer Yeshua Shlo Lachlot. Because Rabbi Lezer now like Rabbi Yeshua that you don't take off the tefillin on that day. But Rabbi Lezer only said you start putting on tefillin on the. Rabbi Yeshua said you only start putting on tefillin on the third day, right? And then you don't take it off. Rabbi Lezer says you start putting tefillin on the second day, but you take it off if panim chadashos come, right? But the shaila is, can we combine Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua's shita and have you start putting on the second day and not take off if somebody walks in? Even though that's an oxymoron, those are mutually exclusive. Because one holds you start putting on the second day, holds you take off if somebody comes in. And the guy who says you don't take off if somebody comes in, holds it starts on the third day. So can we take both kulos? The kula that you put on the second day, big kula, right? You put on the tefillin, great kula. That's right. And the kula that you don't have to take it off. And the Gemara's answer is yes, we can do that. Amar Rabbi Yosef Rabun, top of Yudan Rav, v'keni, yes, that's the way it is. Im natsam bo b'yom Moshe, put on the second day, Rabbi Lezer, Master Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Yeshua Sholach L'tzorah, take him out.
You can't take it off if you're not wearing it.
Right, but the chiddush is you don't take it off even if you are wearing. Yeah, you know what I said. It says more hikeni.
Well, wait a second. It's like, think about it. You can't. It's like one of those garage cars that
Right back to World War I. Garage cars?
No.
Yes.
Electric, forget it. You can't take it off if you're not wearing it. And
Triple.
doesn't it strip that up?
No. It's a paradox, but in Avelus we pass them like the Mako. So we actually can even take, as long as they're not contradictory in their logic, we can take 2 kulos together. The 2 kulos of putting on the tefillin and not take it off. Even though neither one held like that on the second day, but we can combine the 2 shitas. If you weren't allowed on the second day to keep it on, somebody walked into the room, we should have said Allah looks like Rabbi Lezer. It said Allah looks like both. So must be we can adapt both to approaches together to formulate our halacha. Says the Gemara, what if an Avel is 19th? He's destitute, in dire straits. But on the first and second day is Avelos, tough, can't do work, let him starve. But on the third day, he can do work in secret. They said, may a curse apply to his neighbors who made him work during his Avelos. That's why nowadays the custom is that neighbors bring over food, especially the first meal, where an Avel is not supposed to eat from his own. Even on the third day, he shouldn't do work. Why not? Bar Kapara follows this line of reasoning. The Bar Kapara Amar, he said, Ein Tokfo Shalavel, the most powerfully damaging or moving period of mourning is Elad Shlesh Yom, is only for the first days. So psychologically, the first 3 days are a different issue than the last 4. Rabbi Abray, Rabbi Shulzim, B'Shem Rabbi Yerushalmi Levi said, B'Shem Rabbi Levi said, Kol Klasa Yoimin, for the first 3 days after a person's death, Nafsha Taisa Al Gufa, the body flies over the soul flies over the body. Sphere Di Chazal Gabe, it thinks it's gone back. Once it sees that the radiance of the face of his corpse changes and is no longer radiant, so then Hishafkale, the spirit goes away Ba'azla and leaves him. After 30 days, leaves here. After 3 days, after burial, Hakeres Tivkas Haponos, his stomach breaks open on his face. They say to him, look inside the stomach. Here's Mash goes out to that which you stole, the Chamasta, and coerced, con people out of, the Nasatabi, and you put it in me. You stinker. Now smell your own stomach. Okay? Rabbi Chagai B'Shem Rabbi Yoshem Maitzla Mi'achi learns our pasuk. It says, for Zarisi perish al Chagechem. I'm going to scatter your refuse on your faces. Afilu perish Chagechem, even the perish of the refuse of your Yom Tovim, which for me were abominations. Both the Shah at that time, when the dead person sees his body being rent asunder in the grave by the worms, the maggots, the elements, and decay, he says, Ach b'salo alav yichav, his flesh will hurt upon him, the nafshul of tevel, and his soul will yearn for his departed body. Now getting back to issue doing work for somebody sitting shiva. A reason of sharecroppers either get a percentage or a fixed amount. So the Kabbalah and his contractors are allowed to work for him on during his Avelos, because they're not considered, that what's considered to be working on their own. He pays them, but not considered to be his employees. From what?
We went from an extremely complex and angry statement about
dead people.
About the soul's reaction to purification.
It just came, it's Yerushalmi, it came out of nowhere. Poof! Change topics. What? Which part? No. Okay? What?
I mean, I'm just asking. It's incredible.
No, it's a credible transition, but that's life. Or death, in this case. Arisa, Ikarov, his farmhands, the Saponav, and his sailors, Ugumarlov, and his camels, Enamosim, they're not allowed to work for him during Shiva, because they're his. People who are his employees can't work for him. People who are his contractors, they can work for him. Yeah. Says Rabbi Shimon Levi, if you had a cow which is serving like a nursemaid in the city to orphan calves, you're allowed to strut out the cow to go do its work.
You could move loophole that incorporated business.
What?
That's the loophole. Incorporated business.
No, I don't know if it works in Jewish law to incorporate, but there is a heter if you have a majority of partners who are not in Avelus. But what about if you only have two partners? That's what Yerushalmi is going to discuss next. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yerushalmi Moed also he can do the work. Rabbi Yerushalmi said, it's only B'hudu Chayavle, where there was an initial contract that the animal would be shunted from place to place. To nurse, right? Even before you have to begin. But to initiate the contract on Yontif, that doesn't work also. You have two brothers, two partners, two butchers, two storekeepers. One of them had a problem, so then they lock their doors. The Chavera Polav also between the Mokomacher and it's for Chakira Polav and I guess the hired hands and the workers, they can eat on they can do the work elsewhere in secret. Now, in any event, this is Machlokes Bavli and Yerushalmi. The Bavli holds as long as the two partners, one partner can do work for the other. Yerushalmi holds not that way. One partner can't do work for the other. The only thing they can do at best, as Yerushalmi says, is that the guy who's allowed to work, his servants will do work furtively for the other guy. I think it's his servants. I'm not sure.
Not very correct.
What?
Not very correct.
Well, you should have a partner ahead of time.
Is that consistent in your showering throughout all these other, let's say, Chatziyeret, Chatzi,
They're what?
You have a Jew and a guy that owns the same area. So, the Bavli, one day he works for the guy, the next day he works for the Jew.
No, it's by two Jews. Eventually we compel them to release them. Am I answering your question?
I don't know if I'm missing that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're asking. Alright, you keep formulating it. So in any event, Avol Koz Macha Mesul Mutal Fonav, I would say Avil. A person who's an Avelus, again a sudden shift. Koz Macha Mesul Mutal Fonav, as long as the dead corpse is in front of him, Ochel Yitzchavir's got to go to his friend's house to eat. And Lochavir's got no friends, Ochel Baitzach has to eat another house. And Baitzach doesn't have another house, he makes like a interruption in the room, a mechitza, and eats behind the mechitza. We made the other house mechitza, we can't make a mechitza, Hovach is part of a copy of Kreisel. He turns his face towards the wall, and eats like that. Veda lo Mesa does not require eats. Again, this time where his dead relative is not yet buried. He doesn't require when he eats. He doesn't eat all he needs to eat. Does he drink all he needs to drink? Nor can he eat meat and drink wine until he does the burial, until the burial is complete. He can't include him in the zimun for benching. If he makes a bracha, don't answer from him amen. When other people make a bracha, you can't answer amen. It's on a weekday. Shabbos, since the Shabbos can't bury anyway, besides that Shabbos, even the Savel and Shiva, Mesiv, he reclines, although before the Mesiv is buried, Mesiv, he reclines, Ochel, and eats, eats all he wants, V'shos Kotzorka drinks all he wants, V'echel Basar Shos Yain, he can eat meat and wine, Mazayin Love, he can be included in benching, V'in Pirech, he makes bracha, Acharav, Amen, then you respond to him, Amen, Achem Shabrichli, Onarim, Acharav, he responds to other people who made the bracha. So name it, what's going on here? So, we say here that an onain is exempt from all mitzvahs in the Torah. Until such time as he buries his dead body, our overriding mitzvah is that the guy get buried. And therefore he's exempt from all mitzvahs. He can't make brachas, he can't answer brachas. But on Shabbos he can't bury anyway. Right? So then on Shabbos, the guy is allowed to make brachas involved in mitzvahs and stuff like that. Okay?
Is he
No, wait a second.
Obligated to?
They're obligated, absolutely. Look, I'm showing them Leo. Hold me a title if you include loud all this, chivu b'shar mitzvahs shel Torah is chayiv in all of the mitzvahs of Torah as well. Why chaye shoy title lo? The temporal life of eating and drinking is permitted for him. Chaye olam, the eternal life of doing mitzvahs lo kodesh should be permitted as well. For this we infer that a regular onain should not pursue mitzvahs. Right? Should just pursue the one overriding mitzvah of burying the dead. Okay? Rabbi Yehuda bar Pazi, let me go, let's go, let me just, I'll have to